Have you ever asked yourself, why with all the freedom, technology, and comfort in the modern world, do I still feel so lost? Why do you wake up some mornings with a quiet sense of dread? A feeling that you're not living the life you were meant to? You scroll, you tap, you click, you consume. But still, something inside you whispers, this isn't it. Now imagine if Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men to ever walk the earth, were watching your life from afar, not judging you but concerned, quietly observing the slow decay of your purpose, the fog clouding your judgment, the distractions eating at your soul. What would he say? He wouldn't yell, he wouldn't mock you. He'd simply leave a warning that very few would understand and even fewer would take seriously. This video is not for everyone, but if you feel like you've been drifting, unanchored, unmotivated, quietly desperate for something real, then watch this until the end, because it could reshape everything you think you know about what it means to be a man in the modern world. Let's begin. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome at a time when emperors were gods among men. But unlike most who drowned in their own power, Marcus turned inward. Instead of seeking conquest, he sought understanding. Instead of domination, he chose discipline. And instead of pleasure, he chose purpose. In his meditations, which he never meant for the world to read, Marcus wrote not as an emperor, but as a man, a flawed, vulnerable, burdened man, wrestling with pain, ego, fear, and fate. And yet every word he left behind echoes across time like a mirror, showing us not just who he was, but what we've become. Because the modern man is not who he used to be. Today, men are surrounded by noise but starving for truth. Surrounded by comfort but devoid of courage. Surrounded by options but paralyzed by choice. Marcus warned about all of this, not directly, but through wisdom meant to outlive empires. So what was his warning? It starts with a simple phrase: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. To the modern ear, that sounds dramatic, even dark. But to Marcus, it was a daily reminder, a call to urgency, because he knew that men who forget death also forget to live. Look at the modern man. He wastes hours arguing online about things he can't control. He numbs himself with dopamine, scrolling endlessly through images of lives he secretly envies. He delays his purpose because he's waiting for the perfect time, the perfect mood, the perfect motivation. Marcus would say, you are not guaranteed a tomorrow, so why do you live like life owes you one? He warned against postponing virtue, against chasing external validation, against the disease of distraction. And make no mistake, distraction is a disease. It's not just stealing your time, it's eroding your spirit. Imagine your mind as a fortress. In Marcus's time, to defend a fortress meant vigilance, discipline, focus. You kept the gates closed to anything unworthy. Now imagine that same fortress today, bombarded with notifications, flooded with ads, breached by algorithms that know you better than you know yourself. You didn't just leave the gate open, you tore it down and invited the invaders in. Marcus would call this a failure of your inner citadel, your ability to govern yourself. And here's the brutal truth. You can't be free if you're a slave to impulse. You can't be strong if your mind is soft. You can't lead your life if you're too distracted to live it. This is the foundation of his warning. The man who does not rule himself will be ruled by everything else. But let's go deeper. There's a reason Marcus's words feel heavy. They come from a man who carried the weight of an empire, but instead of collapsing under pressure, he found clarity in it. He believed that pressure reveals the truth about a man. And in today's world, that pressure looks different. It's not wars or plagues or invasions. It's apathy, it's comfort, it's ease. Men no longer fight lions, they fight the urge to get out of bed. They don't chase wild beasts, they chase Wi-Fi signals. And that's not meant to mock you, it's meant to wake you up. Marcus would say, if something is difficult for you, don't assume it's impossible. It is only because you haven't trained for it. This is where his greatest message comes in. Modern men have forgotten how to train. Not physically, although many have, But mentally, spiritually, philosophically, they've forgotten that becoming a man isn't about age or income or status, it's about self-governance. And this is the battle Marcus fought every single day. He didn't write to be remembered, he wrote so he wouldn't forget. He wrote to remind himself that anger is weakness, that envy is poison, that pleasure is fleeting, and that virtue is the only path worth walking. He wrote because the world was loud and he needed silence. So let me ask you this, when was the last time you sat in silence? Not with music, not with a podcast, not with a screen, just you, alone with your thoughts. If that idea makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. Most modern men fear their own mind more than they fear failure, because in silence, the truth shows up. And Marcus knew that. He knew that unless a man confronts the truth of who he is, he will spend his life running, numbing, blaming, and posturing. That is the modern disease. And the cure? We'll uncover it piece by piece, because Marcus Aurelius left us not just one warning, but many. Warnings about love, about ego, about pain, about time, and about the war inside every man. This is just the beginning. Part 2, the false life and the mask we wear. Let me ask you something personal. Whose life are you really living? Because most men today are not living their own life. They're living a version crafted by pressure, by media, by trends, by expectation. A performance, a mask, a curated self that is broadcast to the world, while the real self, the ancient, primal, hungry part, sits caged beneath layers of what you're supposed to be. Marcus Aurelius called this out centuries ago. Not in digital terms, of course, but in spirit. He warned against the trap of living by the opinions of others. His words were clear. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. That line, buried in his meditations, slices through the modern man like a blade. We scroll to be seen. We speak to be approved. We dress, eat, act, not from truth, but from a need to belong, to be validated, to not rock the boat. And what does it cost? Your authenticity, your purpose, your soul. Because here's the terrifying truth. The longer you pretend to be someone you're not, the more you forget who you really are. And this, Marcus would say, is a form of self-betrayal, a quiet suicide of the spirit. He knew that virtue wasn't about reputation, it was about integrity. Doing the right thing even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. And in that idea lies one of his greatest teachings. You must live according to your nature. But what does that mean? For Marcus, nature wasn't some poetic metaphor. It was a code, a compass. It meant aligning your actions with reason, with purpose, with justice, with courage. To live unnaturally, to chase pleasure, to avoid pain, to conform blindly, was to rebel against the very essence of your being. And so he writes, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. Not praise, not rewards, not recognition, just the action itself. That is where freedom begins. But in the modern world, freedom is sold like a product. You're told that you're free when you can choose from 100 brands of coffee, that you're free when you can binge any show, date any person, buy any gadget. But Marcus would ask you, what use is freedom if you don't know how to govern yourself? Because that's not freedom. That's sedation, it's pacification, it's the illusion of choice, while your deeper choices, how you spend your time, how you treat your body, what you feed your mind, are outsourced to the culture around you. Marcus would not envy the modern man, he would pity him. Not because he is weak, but because he has forgotten his strength, because the modern man has been lied to. He has been told that his masculinity is toxic, his ambition is selfish, his aggression is shameful, and his independence is obsolete. And over time, he has believed it. But Marcus reminds us strength is not violence, masculinity is not destruction, discipline is not oppression, and purpose is not optional. He would say, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And this, right here, is the turning point. The line in the sand, because there are only two paths a man can take, the path of reaction or the path of intention. The first path is easy. You react, to every impulse, every comment, every urge. You are a puppet pulled by strings you refuse to see. You blame others, you chase distractions, you become a shadow of your potential. The second path is narrow, lonely, hard, but it's the only one that leads to sovereignty, because when you act with intention, you start to rebuild the citadel. You stop handing over your soul for comfort. You stop apologizing for wanting to become something greater. You stop living for others and start living for something higher. This is the essence of Stoicism. It is not cold, it is not robotic, it is not about suppressing emotion, it is about choosing which emotions to listen to. It is about remembering that pain is not the enemy, nor is fear, nor is solitude. The enemy is stagnation, drift, a man without direction. And Marcus Aurelius knew this more than anyone, because even as emperor with absolute power, he woke up every day and reminded himself